West side over there.
Nick, how are you?
Good, John. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Meeting to order.
Make sure
Dr. Brenner?
Here.
Dr. Katsula?
Here.
Mr. Kozowitz?
Here.
Dr. Schumacher?
Here.
Mr. Sefner?
Here.
Ms. Shields?
Here.
And Dr. Burks? Here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Cultivating learners who apply skills and experiences to enrich society.
And then on to student success.
Again, the first item that we have in the student success part of the agenda tonight is an emergency day. The Illinois School Code allows us as a school board to adopt a policy for in the event in which a emergency day would need to be called due to maybe inclement weather or some other types of conditions. And in order for us to pass this and be approved by the ROE and the Illinois State Board of Education, there's certain protocols that we need to follow. One is to have written notification to our Yorkville Education Association and that we have a public hearing, which we plan to have prior to our October 26th Board of Education meeting, and then submit the plan to the Regional Office of Education for approval. In the backup materials, you can see the different schedules that we have put together, sample schedules for each of the levels, which includes students participating in electronic Zoom calls for direct instruction and also independent practice activities for a time of no less than 5 hours per emergency day. And so with that, you can see that the plans have been scaffolded based on the age appropriateness for our students to participate in their learning. This would allow us, if approved, that we would not have to take an emergency day or extend the school year in the event that we have inclement weather or need to close schools. So I will take any questions or have any discussion or comments.
Well, if you're taking questions now, I'm just curious, how does this change, how is this different, Nick, from our platform already that we use for you?
Yeah, so this is separate. The platform that we have for e-learning, from a high school or secondary perspective, they would follow their schedule that was previously determined of a Fox day or a dead day. And so we wouldn't have any kids on campus. They would be at home and then they would follow that schedule for that day, whether it's an odd period day or an even period day. From the middle school perspective, students would attend their 10-period day schedule, starting at 9 a.m. and ending at 3 p.m. And so there's different 25-minute increments where students would follow their schedule at the middle school. And at the elementary level, students would all participate in a 30-minute math Zoom call that's live instruction, and then a 30-minute ELA Zoom call in the morning that's live instruction, and then be given asynchronous activities to complete throughout the course of the day to meet that 5-hour requirement. And so the elementary schedule is probably most like what our current e-learning plan is, but from a 7-12 perspective, this is a little bit of a different schedule than what our kids are.
Okay, so the only thing I was wondering, especially in the middle school where these kids have been on this integrated system, and now it sounds like they have to go back to a class by classes.
They would for that shortened
For
day.
just that event.
It would just, yeah. So if we had a snow day, it might be a 1-day event that we would transition to the schedule. And then if we were able to come back into the facilities, we would resume our current structures.
Okay, thank you.
We did submit a plan to the ROE back in April, and at that time, the state told us they were going to allow it to count for your e-learning plan. So they came back at the tail end of the summer, early September for our ROE, so we have to resubmit. Even post-pandemic, we have to go through this whole process again. And I think it's something too that we have to be mindful when, especially with inclement weather or when we have snow days for a period of time. You know, there also is something to be said about, people having those days to be able to get their driveway shoveled so people can get to work if they're going to work. I mean, so we just have to, obviously, if anything ever happens, I'd be in touch with Dr. Burks, and we would make that decision, or I would recommend a decision, making sure the board's aware of the direction we're headed, like we always do, in these situations.
The other thing to note is that if we were to have an emergency day prior to this being, the public hearing and this being approved, we are currently covered under the governor's emergency proclamation. And so we would use that provision to have that e-learning day under that order if we were to in fact have something like that happen prior to this being approved.
Well, I know this is something we've always kind of talked about since I've been on the board for about 7 years. This is something we've always kind of talked about possibly getting to at some point as in terms of getting rid of the days at the end of the year. So seems like a nice plan.
I think we're probably in better position than many.
Yeah, that nice was being nice, or nice was probably being under. Yeah, well, yeah, right.
No more snow days.
Okay, and then on to OT increase. I don't know if you can hear me, but student services, we recommend increasing our occupational therapy staff by 0.2 FTE based on the number of students that we've had move in with occupational therapy services listed in their IEP. We need to increase our staffing in order to support that.
And this will be brought up at the next meeting or.
Is it immediately that we need this? Or is this
So the current occupational therapist that is covering it, if she goes outside of her current hours, she will time sheet it until we have it approved, or not. Based on,
But there's not a motion for action
Do
tonight?
we need a
No,
motion?
it's just-
We don't need a
okay.
motion.
Next one.
And then we have some policies on display.
Yeah, just to note for the board, many of these policies are just 5-year updates. The accelerated placement program update itself is just, it's the same. There's no changes to that particular policy. The grading and promotion section of this, with the recommendation from press, is just to change some language that had previously referenced park. We don't issue the park assessment anymore. It's not called the element assessment of readiness, and they just use some more generic language stating standardized tests required by Illinois State Board of Education. I think Mrs. Lasky had a few updates for you as well.
I do. So most of the policies on here are just a regular update, but policy 720, harassment of students, is prohibited. It's just an update in language, no changes in our practice. And then policy 7190, which is student behavior. The updated language in this policy is a new definition for isolated timeout and restraint, which our practice already follows from the guidelines that came out last school year. So that's the only change in policy 7190. And then in policy 7185, which is teen dating and violence, the policy listed in here 2260, which is the uniform grievance procedure, just has been updated, so the link inside the policy has to be updated. And then policy 7340, which is student records. We already have this process in place, but the language is changed for students to be able to opt out of the directory, so it wouldn't be a change in our practice. And then policy 770 is attendance and truancy. It is already included in our handbook. It's just some updated language.
So
Melinda, on the student records, these are for children, then this is the parent's discretion whether they can opt out of it, correct?
Can you say
Because
that?
they don't have,
I can't hear you, sorry.
this is the parent's discretion to opt out. Because
Yes.
the student has no control of the record at this point.
Correct, it would be the parents opting out unless the student is over 18.
Over 18. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, and any other information and updates?
Not at this time.
All right, and then on to operational excellence, and then we have summer food service program update.
So back on September 2nd, the USDA announced that they would be extending the summer food service program through December 31st. And what that means for us is that all kids who are 18 years and younger are eligible to receive a free meal through the district. Even students who are 18 to 21 years old who are enrolled in special ed programs in district boundaries are also eligible to participate in this program. Families do not need to register or apply or fill out any forms to participate to receive free meals. Now, the district is currently providing these meals two different ways. One, during normal lunch hours for those who have in-person learning, and two, through our meal pickup events on Tuesdays at the high school from 4 to 6 p.m. So families who show up on Tuesdays can pick up 5 days worth of meals, lunch and breakfast, for each child. Now, in the month of September, we have distributed approximately 10,000 meals during normal lunch periods and another 7,600 during our Tuesday lunch pickup events. However, we expect those numbers to go up in the month of October as families become more and more aware of this opportunity. One downside that we are hearing from parents is the limited types of items that we're able to provide in these meals. And so we are working with Aramark to incorporate more of a variety in these meals for students. By participating in the summer food service program, the district receives 44 cents more per breakfast and 50 cents more per lunch as reimbursement as opposed to the National School Lunch Program. But that might change given that ISB has opened up a window for Aramark and the district to renegotiate the contract because we are participating in this summer food service program. So any surplus that we get, we plan to reinvest that into our kitchens and cafeterias in each school. And finally, there has been talk that Congress will be extending this program through the end of the school year. We just have yet to see any official statements from ISB or the USDA. That's about it. Any questions?
So I was curious on the 5 days of meals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, do we have any issue with the fact that if they're not stored properly, they could become contaminated, they could get sick?
The meals are prepared in a manner that will last all 5 days. They're frozen.
So they're
frozen
sealed
patties.
somehow?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to put this in perspective, prior to this changing, we were averaging in the beginning of the year around 100-something meals per week. And then since it's changed the last 3 weeks, we've had over 3,000 meals per week in the meal pickups. So this obviously is something that's really helping our families and our community. There's a great need.
And we are getting reimbursement now as well.
Correct. Yeah, on a monthly basis.
Because I thought in the budget hearing last week, there was a shortfall there, but is this federal dollars or state dollars?
These are federal dollars. Yeah. Now the shortfall comes in that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
From the state. I thought, didn't we talk about that at the budget hearing?
Yeah, but
We did.
it wasn't a shortfall from the state.
Well, the shortfall comes in the revenue from lost lunch sales. So because we're handing out free lunches, there aren't any à la carte sales going to students or staff. Our expenses are going to go up because we're paying for all of these meals, but the reimbursement is higher than what we're paying for each meal at Aramark. That comes from federal dollars.
So the net is obviously that we're actually profiting from it.
Right. Yeah.
So are we? So we have a base price that we get paid, and we get this overage that we get paid, but we're not selling anything extra. So in the past, were we netting more?
We
per meal?
anticipate actually having a surplus to the point where, like Mike said, we're going to be purchasing we talked about a freezer that we needed for some of the food that you were just talking about, making sure everything was, refrigerated appropriately, and some other items to update some of our kitchens.
So to do that, that would indicate we must be serving more lunches than we had in the past. I'm not talking about the program, I just mean in general.
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right, now I get it. Thank you.
Michael, since we're not in the National School Lunch Program, does it loosen up some of the restrictions on the type of food we can serve? It does not?
No, it doesn't. And that's some feedback that we're getting from parents is that,
Sure.
are we able to, as a parent, get something else in there, but it's limited, and that's what we're working with Aramark on, kind of incorporating more variety in these limitations that we have.
Well, and I would imagine if they have to be stored for a certain amount of time, they're not always healthy because you're putting preservatives in them. So that's not good either.
Better than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That frozen pizza I just threw down before coming here.
Not healthy, Gary.
Or emaciated gang of
Was it Zeus?
I like heartburn.
Okay, any other questions on this? All right, and then we're on to the working cash bond update.
So just a quick update in regards to our future bond issuance. Last board meeting, the board had signed a resolution of intent to issue working cash bonds. These resolutions were published by PMA in our local newspaper on October 1st and will stay there through October 30th. And that is to give the public an opportunity to review our intent to issue working cash bonds. At our October 26th board meeting, the board will hold a Bond Issue Notification Act hearing, or a BINA hearing, where the community will have an opportunity to make comments or ask questions about the issuance of our working cash bonds. So if all goes well, the board will vote on the approval resolution authorizing the sale of working cash bonds on November 9th.
And then last, we have some policies.
Actually, two of those policies were in my area, so I guess I'll speak to them. The uniform grievance procedure, much like what Melinda had mentioned before, there's been some updates primarily in the Title IX sexual harassment grievance procedure. So that's added some language updates and some link updates to 2:260. And then for 8:30 on the visitors, they added just some language updates. Nothing significant.
Any other maybe updates?
For the operation services payment procedures for .50, there are no changes.
All right, and then on to community of learners.
The first one I have is the recommendation for an addition of a 1.0 FTE for dual language. Many of our dual language teachers right now have multiple modalities as well as multiple grade levels in what they're currently teaching. So we feel there's a need to add another 1.0 FTE in order to support that YIS.
They'll be on the board meeting on the 26th.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have some additional policies.
Again, much like before, Title IX updates.
Can I go back to that last one?
Yes.
Does the board have any reservations if we put out an anticipated vacancy?
Oh, now you mean?
Yes, knowing that obviously if you don't approve it, then the vacancy goes away. But I'm just thinking about a 2-week window, or, October 26th is 3 weeks away.
So we can take a consensus at this meeting.
Correct.
So,
Just to make, if there's no issues with it as of now, allowing us to go forth to post and get the ball rolling.
That could be a difficult position.
It's gonna be hard no
It's
matter
gonna be a
what.
challenging position.
you want to take a consensus?
We need to move.
No, you
No.
can't move, but you can take a consensus at a committee.
Right.
So you can say, well,
Absolutely.
Yes.
there's no way they'd be opposed to this.
No.
So your consensus is 100%.
I appreciate that. I think it'll be helpful for the program and to get it. Thanks.
That's a good idea.
We're back to policy.
Yep, that policy.
All of these, just as before, are primarily some minor language changes, again referencing to Title IX, and then some big changes within that's for all of these policies.
And then last, medical insurance self-funding.
In the last meeting, Dr. Brainerd asked about how we determined our premiums and our rate of funding. And as it mentions in here, we meet with GCG annually, and they work with Milliman, the actuarials, to figure out what they anticipate our needs are going to be for the upcoming year. And they provide for us 4 different scenarios that it's on this document that I've included on there. We've always been very conservative to make sure that we don't have a shortfall by the end of the year. The hard thing is, the part that's really difficult to anticipate is those spikes that we see every year at certain times of the year. And the other one is the stop loss. When our stop loss runs out, we go into the new year, now we have a sudden expense. And the funds that we're putting away heading into the next school year, or that we put away this year, are actually being used at the beginning of the next school year in order to pay any of the hits against the plan. So we've been very consistent so far since we've gone to self-funding.
Yeah, it appeared that we were, but it seems we do hit that stop loss every year.
We do.
I'm not saying it's bad, but we just have to anticipate that phenomenon of expenditure.
Right.
But haven't you seen market decrease in usage in the organization?
Yeah.
During COVID, I mean, all procedures were stopped, all things were closed, everything went.
But I don't know if that's true. We should look at the claims data. So is your claims data been pretty level through COVID? I mean, not at that, not last year, I mean now.
So far, yes, only because people haven't had the ability early on in the spring and the summer to get into the doctors to begin with. And people are pushing out some basic needs. But we're gonna see that changing here, I think, soon, because there are some people that are having to get in to see the doctor and get procedures taken care of.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the data that you gave us. So yeah, we had a decrease initially, and now we're picking up, and I know it's anecdotal, but there are a lot of people now that are working at getting back to their more routine schedule.
I can look at hospital numbers, but that has not caught up.
Yeah, for electives and things like that.
Where it was the big chip items.
Yeah. See, that's not hospital. Yeah.
it's something we can periodically bring back to the committee too, just to give an update
Yeah,
on how it's trending over the course of the year.
yeah, I think, because we know we're gonna have some years that we're gonna take a hit, that's just part of doing this, but.
Well, one of the things we talked about when we first went self-funded is that we can expect to have 1 out of every 4 years that's going to be a year where we're going to get hit harder than normal. So far, that year has not arrived.
Come yet.
So we've been able to maintain our premiums at the very same level, actually starting 2 years prior to us becoming self-funded.
Right. Yeah, we've been very fortunate. Thank you for the information. Appreciate it.
All right, any other updates, Troy? All right, and I believe that's it. Anything else?
Yeah, just reminder the board, next weekend is kind of our fall break weekend, so Friday and Monday, Tuesday are parent teacher conferences. So it's only for our students that are out. Nice long weekend. This week is our Fall Fest with Spirit Wear, so thanks for agreeing to be casual tonight, and also wear sweatshirts and Spirit Wear. We appreciate it, and kudos to all of our schools, our community, and Christine and Kathy, and PTOs, and you name it, who have been helping out to prepare for the week, and movie nights, and restaurants, and just a lot of goodwill going around, so we appreciate it.
All right, so we have an adjournment, so we need a motion. Need a motion? Yep,
So-
motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
You adjourned.
Yeah, so